Good afternoon. I'm Linsey Towles with KHTS Radio, and I'm here today with Councilwoman Marsha McLean, who is running for re-election. How are you today, Marsha?
I'm wonderful. Thank you very much.
That's great to hear. Well, let's get started.
Okay.
Why are you running for City Council?
Why am I running for city council? Well, I'm running for city council because there's many programs that I'm involved in right now that it has taken a lot of time to be able to get the relationships that are necessary in order to make them work. I mean, it's just not local here in Santa Clarita, it's also regional. We need to get the money we need for our programs. And I'm running because we're not quite finished yet. And there's a lot still to be done.
So what do you believe to be the top 3 most pressing concerns for the community in Santa Clarita, and why?
Well, as I'm out and about in the community, and I meet people in the grocery stores or they email me, they're very, very concerned about public safety. That's a huge issue, and that's something I'm is one of my priorities. Another one is they want to make sure that we keep our open space available to all of us and not allow development to ruin it. And we have over 13,000 acres of open space that we have acquired through our open space district that will never be built upon. Another, well, there's a couple more, but one is the fentanyl drug crisis that we're in right now. Another is homelessness. And of course, affordable homes for our kids. I mean, I want my kids to be able to afford a house here in Santa Clarita and live close by.
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you think the votes that you have taken during your service on council have addressed or contributed to those concerns that you just mentioned? If you could give examples.
Well, yes, of course. Regarding the homeless issue, for example, I sit on the homeless ad hoc committee with Councilman Cameron Smythe, and we have formed a community homeless task force made up of about 30 nonprofit organizations. Before that time, these organizations were kind of on their own, trying to get funding and be able to make their programs work. We have all come together. We have helped to make sure that there's funding available. That's another thing where regional comes in. It's a really huge issue here. The homeless issue is huge. And right now, the funding is through an organization from the county called LASA. And it has been found that they haven't been the most efficient in getting those funds to local governments who really know how to solve the problem. So regionally, I and many other cities got together with Supervisor Barger's Blue Ribbon Task Force to report back to the county how those funds need to be dispersed to local governments. And through that effort, we have gotten double the amount of money, from 10 million to 20 million for local governments through councils of government. So as you can see, it's not a cut and dry subject. There's a lot of components to it. And that's where my experience comes in, because I'm dealing with it, I've dealt with it, and plan to continue to deal with it.
Yes. So, what kind of skills and examples do you bring to the table as an elected official?
I started my career working for the Los Angeles Police Department and working with the men and women. I was a civilian, but I worked with them, so I understand how important it is to support our law enforcement. I then worked for a Los Angeles city councilman, and then I went to work for the federal government, and I was assigned to the American Embassy in Paris, France, and also a short time in Tel Aviv, Israel. So that gives me a government background, and that's where my experience comes in handy with dealing with government agencies and such.
Yeah. So, a recent poll conducted by the city showed that Santa Clarita residents considered one of the main issues in our valley to be overdevelopment and growth. Do you think overdevelopment is a problem in Santa Clarita, and what would you do to address it?
Well, this is like a catch-22 thing. I know people move here because we are a wonderful community, we're a family-oriented community, and then they don't want anybody else to move here. Developers have a right. If they own property, they have a right. We cannot tell them you cannot develop your project. But what we can do, we can make sure that that project has a benefit to the entire community, such as new roads, making sure they do have open space in parks, making sure that the infrastructure is improved when they build their projects. And that's why we have such a great city at this point, because we hold them responsible, and any project that I vote on must have a benefit for the entire community.
Um, Since LA County Health has created a one-size-fits-all on passing out emergency health mandates, what are your thoughts on the city creating a health administration that can better cater to the healthcare needs of our valley?
I have a very, I have a very deep concern over them putting forth their mandates for our community. And we would love to have our own health department. We looked into it, but it would cost so much money to be able to have the resources that our taxpayers are paying enough through inflation and constant taxes that are imposed on them. And it would cost so much money, we would have to impose a hefty tax in order to fund it. So right now, it is much less expensive to contract through the county. However, that doesn't mean we're complacent and we're quiet about it. Our city council has taken a strong opposition to the fact that they have these one-size-fits-all mandates. And we have been able to make some inroads in that, but it's difficult when it would cost so much money to have our own health department.
Yeah. So kind of jumping back to that city poll that we mentioned previously, where residents brought up the issue of overdevelopment. They also noticed that homelessness is a major issue affecting our valley. Do you think that the city is offering enough support to our unhoused residents, and what would be your approach as a council member to addressing those concerns?
Right. Well, we're already dealing with that issue through our nonprofits. It is a problem here, and if you take a look at the figures, don't go by percentages, but actual figures, our homelessness has really dropped by several points. And that is because we make sure that we have resources for those that could potentially become homeless and then are homeless. I have, in the committee that I headed up for the Community Homeless Task Force, we put together a resource guide. And I have it in my briefcase there, but we put together, it's a small card, it has a QR code, and it has the website for anyone who is homeless to look on that website and get any help they can through those resources, or is about to become homeless to also look on there. It's a two-pronged approach, helping those that could become homeless and helping those that are already homeless. And our sheriff's department isn't out there to arrest people or punish them. They're there to help. And through our contract with the sheriff's department, we have actually had them have a separate department where they go out, and if they see someone is on the street, they immediately try to get them help. Unfortunately, there are some homeless that don't want help. They just enjoy what they're doing. They like living that lifestyle that they're living, and that kind of makes it unfortunate for our neighborhoods and such. So once again, it's not just an easy solution. It's not just something where you say you want the homeless to all be housed. You have to have the experience to make sure that the programs are available to them. Oh, actually, do I have the card right here? I do. I don't know if you can see it. This is the little card, and there's a QR code on one side, and then the website is on the other side. And that's something I'm very proud of, heading up the resource committee for the homeless task force, that we were able to get this done.
How can people get a hold of that?
You can email me. You can ask the city. we have these cards available. We pass them out wherever I can. I'm happy to give them to you so you can tell other people about it too. We
Okay.
want people to know about it.
Absolutely. Recently, KHTS held a press conference where SCV Sheriff Station officials told us that Santa Clarita is leading LA County in fentanyl-related
Right.
drug deaths. You mentioned that a little bit earlier. What can the city do to address this crisis?
Right. This is definitely a crisis. I was at that press conference and I sat next to a mom who went in to wake her child up and found him dead through the fentanyl. That should not be happening. I'm sure her child had no intention of killing himself, didn't realize that those pills that are being put out there into the community have fentanyl in it, and it's absolutely deadly. We in the city have put together a program. It's called Defy, Drug-Free Youth. We go into our schools, we educate through the schools. We had a symposium recently where parents and their children were able to come and get all the information that they need in order to be educated to the dangers of this drug. It's pretty sad when you have to have NORCOUNT in all the libraries and schools at this point. We have to stop them coming in to our area, and we have to find out who's doing that. And as you know, we ask our sheriff's department to make sure that they do what is necessary to, if they find these drugs on the street and those who are dispensing them, they're immediately arrested. Unfortunately, sometimes with the lax laws that the district attorney is putting out there, they are arrested and put out on the streets, but our guys go out and watch them and make sure that they're not just doing it again. Mm-hmm. We have to do something.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel the city is doing when it comes to public safety? That's another issue that you talked about a little bit earlier. When it comes to public safety, are we doing enough? And if not, what should we be doing?
Our city takes public safety very, very seriously. We are known as one of the most safest cities in the nation, as a matter of fact, and one of the most family-oriented cities. We get awards all the time for that because we spend the dollars that are necessary to put the men and women on the street through our sheriff's department to make sure that we keep our families safe. Mm-hmm. So that is another priority of ours, and anytime there is a particular problem, we address it and we put the funds necessary in order to make sure that that is addressed for our families. Mm-hmm.
Final question for you. Tell me why residents should vote for you in a few sentences or less.
A few sentences or less, huh? Okay. No one can deny that we are one of the safest cities, and we get awards and recognition to being one of the safest cities in the nation. Anyone can identify an issue, but I have a proven record of accomplishments. And what you get from me is my dedication and commitment and leadership. I don't make empty promises. Mm-hmm. I won't tell you I can do something if I can't, just to gain your favor or the voters' favor. But when I can help and when I say I will, you can count on the fact that I will carry through. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. I know what works and what doesn't work. And we don't need to waste money and the taxpayers' dollars on reinventing programs that we have already put forth or have done our due diligence to make sure that they work. And that's an extremely important part of why I'm running. So I'm just hopeful that voters will scroll down the list of city council candidates and find my name, Marsha McLean, and vote for me because I promise that I will continue to be the full-time councilwoman, and you will continue to see the results. In other words, we're never complacent, always looking to the future.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for stopping by, Marsha, and best of luck to you on this upcoming election. This has been Linsey Towles with KHTS Radio on 1220 AM and 98.1 FM.